Hello, I am Art Gunner from thepunkeffect.com and morepower.com. I am here with
Fabrice Sapolsky.
also known as the author of Spider-Man Noir, probably one of the best alternate universe Spider-Man in my opinion. Now, according to several different articles, according to my research, the way people like to say you just came up with this idea one day. You pitched it to Marvel and they just ate it up. Would you mind giving us a little more detail on the story?
Yes, as I always say, I got this idea in London on a very precise day. It was December 6th, 2006. And when I had this idea, the first thing that I did was to take it to my friend David Hein, who ended up co-writing the series with me. And at first he hated it. He hated the series, he hated the idea. He didn't see that working very well. And he was more interested in doing something very pulp. So I took my train back. And when I got home, I found a very, very long message from Dave saying, detailing the reasons why he changed his mind and how we should do it. And we started talking. And we bounced emails back and forth. And we created this thing. And a month later, I was in New York for another different reason. And I had lunch with Jim McCann, who's now a writer, but at the time was the marketing director of Marvel. And after eating his sandwich, Jim said, I pitched him the idea, and he said, well, don't say it was from me, but you want to contact Joe Quesada right now. And so I call up Dave, and I say, are we ready with the pitch? Are we set up? And he said, yes, we are pretty much. Just a couple of things to polish. And we sent it that same week to Joe Quesada, and 10 days later, the book was picked up. And we had an editor, Warren Simmons, who's now editor-in-chief at Valiant. And Warren loved the concept, and we started working from 2007 and 2008. And the book was finally released after a very, very long development hell. It was released on December 2008, and the rest is history.
Thank you. Would you mind giving the viewers a little bit more idea of what Spider-Man Noir is about? Because as much as I know and love the character, most people are only familiar with the standard Peter Parker Spider-Man. What is unique about this version of the character?
Well, you have to remember that when you have to recreate something that exists, you have to make it different. But we didn't want it to be artificially different. So Dave and I we're both Europeans. We both have we like history very much. We have a social conscience, and we like to have the characters deeply rooted in their society. And what we decided early on was that Spider-Man Noir would be very much realistic. So it was important for us to have the social issues of the 1930s, the political issues of the 1930s, the racial issues too, into the book. And we wrote that, and it fit perfectly. So every change we made was driven by that. Now, regarding Peter Parker, the first question that came to our mind was how a teenager like Peter Parker ends up being a different person because he was raised in a different era with a different social background. He's not a middle class.
And we're back. Sorry about that. Magic of editing. You were saying?
I would say Peter Parker, what kind of teenager he is when instead of growing up in a very safe and peaceful area, he's in a very violent and tough environment. and that environment would be the 1930s. And it was a very conscious move on our part to make of Uncle Ben and Aunt May two communists that operate a shelter in New York. Because this is what happened at the time. So this is as much a story of what kind of man you become in this very troubled era during the 1930s, as well as how the society is, which kind of person it excludes, like the Goblin. All the villains have actually reasons to be the way they are.
Would you mind elaborating, like, what, through your 2 runs on Spider-Man Noir, what villains did you decide to include, and what was the reasoning behind them?
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to go in depth. You don't want to spoil it for them.
I don't want to spoil it, but let's say one thing. From the early discussions that Dave had with me, Dave wanted to push the series much more in a pulp direction, while I was gearing toward more noir. So it was more crime for me and more pulpy with the out-of-this-world characters, like grotesque, but frightening at the same time. And he started to develop things around Cirque du Freak. Have you heard about that? Okay. So the Goblin was a natural candidate. We call him the Goblin. He's a green goblin. We call him the Goblin. And the Goblin in the story is a character that, with a very, very a great strength, tried to get out of its natural condition, which is being a freak, and wants to be like everyone else and gain power because he's in love with power. So the Goblin was pretty much the first villain that came up. But in the first series, there are a lot of different other villains, like the Vulture. And I remember writing to Dave on how I saw the Vulture, and I had this very distinct image of Klaus Kinski in Nosferatu, the vampire, and I wanted the Vulture to be that person.
Definitely a better vampire than we've been getting in recent years.
I'm not judging. And he's frightening in the series. I think he's the most frightening character. Bigger than the Goblin. So there are these two, and plus there's Hammerhead and other minor characters. In the second series, it was much more simpler because Marvel wanted us to... Well, we discussed a lot about this with Marvel. First they said they wanted Venom. We were not really a big fan of Venom. We found a way to make it work, but it was really strange, so we dropped the Venom idea early on, and we concentrated on what would be our main villain. There's something of an incredible process when I'm working with Dave, is that we're on the same page all the time. Every time I think about a villain, I call up Dave and he said, you know what, I just thought of the same thing. And I don't know if we're connected, is it mind meld or something? But yeah, this is it. Every time we picked up a main villain for the series, this is something that we both agreed because each one of us had the same idea. So yeah, villains, what do you want to know?
Wait,
I forgot.
Well, thank you. Now, to round this up, would you tell us about the other project you've been working on, One Hit Wonder?
Okay, One Hit Wonder. One Hit Wonder. One Hit Wonder is a series that I started to develop 2 years ago. After a discussion with another great creator friend called Joe Keating, who's writing a terrific book called Shutter at Image. And I was just picking him up at the airport, and I said, you know what, I just had this idea of a guy who's a child actor who turns badly and becomes a hitman for the mafia. And he started laughing. And I said, are you laughing because you think it's terrible or because you think it's great? I said, it's great. You should make it your next project. And I started toying with that idea of this character, Richie Reese. And I kind of developed my own writing style with it, which is starting with a very, very small event, very small group of personalities and characters, and zooming out to show that it's the small piece of a much larger story. And from One Hit Wonder to my next project called Harem, that will be published next year, all my series will be written in that fashion. So, One Hit Wonder is a 5-issue miniseries that was started with Ariel Olivetti on art. He's a co-creator with me, and now we have another artist finishing the series because Ariel has been asked to do a major project at a major publisher that we can't talk about. And his name is Stephen Thompson. He's very talented too. And the 4 first issues have been published by Image Comics. You can buy them digitally or in print. And issue 5 is going to drop in a few weeks. So this first miniseries will be done. And then after my next project will be all ongoing series.
Harem will be ongoing?
Harem will be ongoing.
Can you tell me a little bit about that? Because the title intrigues me.
Yes, well, that was the idea. Harem is the story. It's what I call a post-feminist book. It's a book where all major characters are female. There's only one male character, one important male character, and he's actually witnessing what happened in the story. It's not front and center. The girls are front and center. This is a story about women getting freedom from a world governed by men.
Wait, can you repeat that?
It's the story about a bunch of women, 99 women to be precise, that are seeking their freedom in a world governed by men. You know, I studied history for 4 years. I have a bachelor's degree in contemporary history, and I love history. And there are history elements in all my books. Not only Spider-Man, not only One Hit Wonder or Harem, but everything I write. I wrote another book called Black Box, which is unavailable in America, but has been released in Europe. And I hope to bring in America one day. And it's all that. I like to have like real elements, real historical elements in my stories. And hopefully we'll carry on that way.
Thank you. So you can pick up Spider-Man Noir, volumes 1 and 2, One Hit Wonder, 1 through 4, 5 soon to come out, and look out for Harem next year. Once again, thank you for your time, and I hope you have a good Comic-Con.
Thank you very much.
This is Art Gunner signing out.